Coming up, Latrell Mitchell shoulder charges his way into the Book of Feuds. Mark Percival beats off the Quaddie at Warrington. And with magic on the horizon, the NRL finals are only 1 week away. Yes, hello, and welcome back to the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Hendry, I'm Connor Marcells, and today, back to your regularly scheduled programming, as if we haven't been anywhere for the last 8 months, your NRL Round 24-25 debrief ahead of the first week of the finals. Could you ever think we ever reached this point with everything that's gone on?
No, not at all. Considering the relocation to Queensland, then we had that Saturday not that long ago where it looked like it was going to be in doubt again, but then Peter Volandes in the NRL and all that figured it out, just pushed the games back to have it on a Sunday and Monday instead.
It's been a long road, but finally, September is here, and the finals are almost upon us, and the race for the 8th place spot is on. And we begin that by wrapping up on round 24, or with 2 of the teams trying to fight it off for the top 8, one a bit more successful than the other. And that's with the Newcastle Knights getting up over the Gold Coast Titans, 15 points to 14.
Yeah, well, the Knights have definitely cemented their top 8 slot now comfortably in 7th. After a Mitchell Pearce field goal right at the death brought Newcastle home in what was a thrilling game.
I thought the Titans had an edge early in the leading up into half-time. I thought the Titans, after David Fafita swatted away. How many plays did he swat away this time? Was it 4? Was it 5? Was it Adam O'Brien's credibility? Nope, that's a joke. That is a joke.
Yeah, no, he just swatted in left, right, and centre.
The strategy that Justin Holbrook implemented with bringing David Fafita on the bench. You would have thought after he crashed his way over in the second, leading up into halftime, you honestly believe the Titans would have gone on with the job.
Well, I certainly did think that, and I thought, oh, yeah, that's it for Newcastle. Titans are going to go away with the game, but that wasn't seen to be the case.
And statistically speaking, I mean, stats don't really mean that much from actual performance, but I'm looking at some of these key stats here. Completion rate: the Titans 86%, and with 32 from 37 is complete. More time in possession than Newcastle. Less errors with the ball, 5 to 11, with the Knights giving. Basically, the Knights could have lost that game just on drop ball alone. And yet somehow they hang on.
Yeah. Like, the amount of errors that Newcastle made, they definitely were looking like the side that were going to go down.
I'll tell you who did swing the game. Mitchell Pearce. A lot of questions over his future at the moment. Is he staying at Newcastle? Is Canterbury going to sign him up if they cut Adam Elliott loose? Is he going to end up at Catalan replacing James Maloney, or Wigan for Jackson Hastings? But right here, right now, he is still the Knights' first choice halfback. And this is how he did it. This is how he turned the game. 1 try, 69 running meters, 2 tackle breaks, 1 40-20, and a 1-point field goal.
Yeah, he's still got it in him on Mitchy Pearce. I don't think he'll be going anywhere anytime soon. And I think Newcastle will definitely be wanting to keep him for at least another season if he can do that sort of performance against the Titans, and to try and definitely cement their spot in the top 8.
Well, I think they locked up their spot in the top 8 a week ago against Canterbury. They only needed to beat the Dogs and they'd make it. And I think they have achieved that. And by a miracle that Adam O'Brien has been able to get this side going at the right time, because middle part out of the year, Newcastle were in trouble.
They were in massive trouble. They were outside the 8. They were down. Well, I think they were 13th at one stage, I think. And they looked like they were gone. But no, like you said, Adam O'Brien's got the firing at the right time of this season.
Well, losing Mitchell Pearce certainly didn't help. And I'm just correcting you on that record. They actually dropped to as low as 14th. So they were really in the bottom 4. Or after 40-4, thumping at the hands of the Eels and a 24-20 loss to South. But then, I think actually since they moved to Queensland, they've actually been on a good run.
Yeah,
Well, actually, just in the last 5 weeks, they've been on a good run. The first 2 games, they got smashed big time by the Storm and the Roosters. But talking about timing it, the last 5 weeks, Newcastle have delivered.
Yeah.
Have declined into the top 8 at the right time. You've definitely got that point there.
And look, it's ever since Stray Clifford has come to Newcastle, I mentioned that last week, I mentioned again this week, they have won every single game with Pearce and Clifford in the halves.
Well, I definitely think you've got that right. As we look at Clifford, first arrived at around 13 in the second half of the year. Yeah, but since then, of the last, what should we call that? Last 12 or so games?
Yeah. I mean,
Only
they've
4
had
losses. Only 4 losses since he joined the club.
a lot better than some other person going to another club.
Tom didn't. Sorry, I think I got a cough in the back of my throat. I think it's called a North Queensland choke. I can't really verify that. I might get fact checked for that later on, or I could get a diagnosis on that. Now, New Zealand Warriors, unfortunately, they are going to miss the finals again as they go down to the Canberra Raiders 28 points to 16, but that didn't start the way. But it didn't end the way the Warriors hoped for because of their bloody good start.
Yeah, it was 30 odd, 40 odd seconds into the match, I think Sean O'Sullivan scored. It was very, very early on in the match.
It is mental. And Sebastian Chris, I think the Warriors worked it out that Sebastian Chris was a little bit suspect. Because you had Rocco Berry, because I think both Rocco Berry and Dallin Watene-Zelezniak's tries came off kicks, right?
Yes.
You got to be ready for those kicks, especially with Watene-Zelezniak chasing through. I think it was batted back, and then Watene-Zelezniak dies on the top of it, and Warriors fly out to 16-0 lead before you can even say sticky.
Exactly. They just flew out of the blocks, the Warriors, and looked like they're all going to go on with it and be in contention in the top 8 for the top 8 for yet another week, but the tables turned very, very quickly.
Well, they turned right on the stroke of half-time, especially when Chance Nickel-Cookstad scored. I mean, you wouldn't think 16-6, it's a big deal. What happened after that was a second half onslaught. 4 tries in 40 minutes. And it started with Sebastian Chris after getting found out twice. He comes back with two tries of his own, a try assist, 78 running meters, and 2 tackle breaks. He kickstarts the second half for the Canberra Raiders and then finishes off with Hudson Young right on the stroke of full time, just for the exclamation point.
Yeah. Look, the Raiders were dominant in the whole of the second half of the match. When Rapana scored, that pretty much all but confirmed the win for the Raiders, but then Hudson Young, like you said, right on full time, just put that nail in the coffin to absolutely cement it.
Yes. But I think the Warriors can take out of this is they put up once again just a lot of courage, a lot of grit and determination for what has been another troubling year. I mean, they were meant to get a home game in New Zealand this year, and unfortunately, events have conspired against them to ensure that they are not only stuck in Australia for a second season, but I think they are going to be stuck in Australia for a third year as well.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Suggesting at the moment that they might have to stay in Australia for 2022.
Yeah, I feel so sorry for the Warriors, but they
got a bright future ahead of them, especially with Sean Johnson coming back. So this next year, it's going to be a story of it's back to the future as Sean Johnson returns to the club. And I think from his time at the Sharks, he might actually arrive a better player back at the Warriors than he was before he left.
I'd say so, because he's done really good at the Sharks. There was a fresh start for him.
Injury concerns didn't help his cause one bit, but when he was playing,
he was on it.
He was literally carrying the Sharks.
He was. And with Towns in the halves as well, when he was at the Sharks. Look, Brendan Johnson back to the Warriors is a really good move from the Warriors side.
Oh, just look at that spine already. Reece Walsh, Sean Johnson, Chanel Harris-Tavita, and Wade Egan. That's your first choice spine for Nathan Brown next year.
Yeah. Strong spine.
So unfortunate for the Warriors. As for the Raiders, well,
there
could still be time. They're one of those teams fighting off for a top 8 spot. So, the last one, I should say.
Yes.
This round could get very, very interesting. But before that, we've still got a lot to get through here. Now, the Rabbitohs, once again, putting the Roosters to the sword, running away 54-12 victors at Suncorp Stadium.
Well, it was expected for the Rabbitohs to put a bit of a score on the Roosters, but not that much, though.
This match was absolutely crazy. I think Gus...
It had it all.
Gus Gould seems to be able to find himself in all the biggest controversies. I mean, the only thing out of this I can agree with him on is I think we should have the Roosters and the Rabbitohs play every Friday night.
What, week in, week out?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It brought everything in this match.
The craziest 4 minutes for me was, and before we even get onto Latrell, Mark Nichols, underrated he has been for South. Of course, has been starting for, I think, the last month and a bit with Junior Totola coming back off the bench. But this was his performance. 2 tries, 245 running meters, 4 tackle breaks, and 20 hit-ups. I think there was a conspiracy going on here. Personal opinion, I think there was a conspiracy theory that had he stayed on, he would have actually scored a hat-trick, but I think Wayne had other ideas.
Look, he had, I reckon, one of the best games of his career for Mark Nichols. And, yeah, I agree. He could have easily scored a third, maybe even a 4th try if he scored on, if he stayed on the field.
So, if you're watching this and you think there is a conspiracy theory going on that Mark Nichols got denied a hat-trick, leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. But then, I think the weight of pressure that was on the Roosters, because we got to remember, there's $6 million worth of talent that was sidelined for the majority of the year. Morris Twins, Boyd Cortner, Jake Friend, you've heard all the names. We talked about most of the names that are missing for the Roosters. You got blokes like Ben Thomas, who was quoted as a $5,000 contract, not $5,000 a week, $5,000 for his whole contract. That's how much he's getting paid all year, and he was being called in at the biggest time for the Roosters. It's the same story with Brad Abbey. He was floating around both Canterbury and Canberra's junior systems, gets picked up by probably North Sydney first up before even thinking about the Roosters, and gets drafted in the wing when was it Matt Ikevalu that went down, or?
Well, I know Joey Marnie didn't go down, sorry. Yeah, Ikevalu wasn't even playing at all, so I'd say it would have been him, because Daniel Tupou was still out from the field, so yeah.
They just opened up the Roosters. I mean, the weight of pressure that the Rabbitohs were applying, and especially the final 20 minutes of that, when it started with Latrell Mitchell. Now, what do you think? Was that hit that fractured Joey Manu's eye socket, was that worthy of a sin bin?
Yes.
Oh, no, sorry. I meant to say send-off. Was it worthy of a send-off?
My answer again, yes. I reckon that went a bit too long.
This is where Gus comes back into it, because he believes that anyone criticizing Latrell Mitchell is acting childish, that it's just a childish attack. Sorry, he shoulder charged the bloke to the face, busted his eye socket, and effectively ruled him out of the Roosters finals campaign.
Yeah, And Joey Martin, who has been a brilliant player for the Roosters all year, he has stepped up and played out of position in the halves.
And at fullback. Don't forget he played fullback as well.
And at fullback throughout the season when needed to, and then for his season to end because of that. Yeah.
And of course, Latrell, he's not doing any favours among South Sydney fans either. He's going to miss the entire finals campaign. And in worse news for Jason Demetriou, he's going to miss, I believe, the first 2 games of the 2022 season, depending how far the Rabbitohs go into the finals campaign. So that could be, if they get knocked out in the semi-finals, he could be missing for the first month of the premiership.
Yep.
Lucky to be back before Good Friday against Canterbury, because we know that fixture's going to be locked in immediately.
Well, yes. But it wasn't necessary to go that high. Like, seriously, come on. Do you reckon I believe 6 weeks is still a little bit too lenient.
Well, considering that George Burgess got 9 matches, but mind you, that charge was eye gouging. And that shit was ugly. We don't want that in the game.
Yeah, no, we don't at all.
Eyes out of it.
Yeah.
Big full stop on that.
Yep.
And of course, we got to talk about Alex Johnston. This bloke is just... He's proven to be a freak of a try scorer.
Oh, yeah, he is. What did he get? A hat trick again?
He could become the first South Sydney player since 1954, I think I heard correctly, to be the all-time... to score the most amount of tries in a season for the Rabbitohs. That's a record.
Wow.
29 tries. He's got 27. He only needs to bag another hat trick. And not only will he be the Ken Irvine medalist, or will lock away the Ken Irvine medal for the top try scorer, but he could really edge his name into South Sydney's record books as the one who scored the most tries in the regular season for the club.
Unbelievable record.
It's a massive achievement.
Best year of his career. Barring the injury he suffered a few weeks back, if he wasn't out because of those injuries, so then he would have already beaten it, I reckon.
It's just remarkable, the talent that is there in that South Side if they're not throwing themselves into dining out with the judiciary. Now, moving on, the North Queensland Cowboys. Finally, the Cowboys break their 9-game losing run, I think it was, downing the St. George Illawarra Dragons 38-26. Now tell me, this is a meme at this point, that is St. George Illawarra. You're up 20-10. Diagnosis of the second half.
Yeah. Don't talk to me about it. I said coming into last week, this will be the last chance the Dragons will get to win this season. And what do? We're going on and lose. So, yeah. Our last win was that nail-biter, thrilling finish against the Warriors before Barbecue Gate. And since then, it's gone absolutely downhill.
Well, you could definitely say gone downhill. Oh, considering you're up 20-10 at halftime, and it's a second half blitz from the Cowboys. That just ultimately breaks you.
Yep.
How did you let it happen?
Honestly, I do not know. I can't answer. I honestly cannot answer.
Now, it was interesting because Todd Payton chose the name Jason Taumalolo in the front row. We know I think many people regard him as one of the best lock forwards in the game, but he's not, as Michael Ennis said on the Fox League coverage, he is not a lock like Cam Murray or Victor Radley, who only weighs probably half of what he does and actually has some silky ball handling skills. He's more like I wouldn't want to say a Paul Gallen, because Gallen doesn't really have that speed or footwork on him, but just that hard-running front rower with the step that just takes the line on and bends defensive is to their will.
Yeah. He certainly does.
This worked, putting him in the front row. 209 running moves, 2 tackle breaks, and 2 offloads, and laying the platform for Tom Dearden to actually have some proper go for once. and
and
actually control the game.
for actually to him have a win in the Cowboys side that he hasn't had a game win since he's
round
joined.
3 this year when he was still at the Broncos. That's how long he's been waiting.
One time between drinks, and he would have been celebrating hard on Saturday night.
I definitely would have, but I don't think anyone from the Dragons would have been celebrating.
Well, no. Well, Lomax, I think Lomax got injured again, so that doesn't help. Yeah, so that doesn't help. But the two young ones, well, you could say Lomax is still young, but Lomax, Sullivan, and Sloan again, especially Sullivan and Sloan.
Yeah. Jaden Sullivan for me. I think he will be starting at 5'8" next year for the Dragons with Ben Hunt.
And I'm saying Sloan will be the fullback.
Well, you don't think... Oh, that's right, because you still reckon Moses Mbai will be used as a bench utility.
Yep. And Ramsey will still be out on the wing for next year. But yeah, Sullivan and Sloan, and then throw in Amone. They played through their juniors and they're going to play first grade next year. All three of them. Plus the Guy twins.
So you think the Fine twins... Which one do you think will get the first crack next year? Max or Matt?
Probably Matt, because he has been playing a lot this season in the absence of Ramsey, so he'll get the first crack next year.
Alright, it'll be interesting to see how they all fit in, but I think that's a matter for Anthony Griffin and Anthony Griffin only. Now, the Sharks. They are still in this finals race after beating a spirited Brisbane Broncos performance, I must say, 24-16.
Yeah, look, after the Sharks absolutely dominated the Tigers in round 23, I thought the Sharks would be looking to back it up again and win. But I did favour the Broncos, but how wrong was I?
Well, this really was a seesaw or affair that was going on here. I think the Broncos were really up. The Broncos were up to this. They were throwing everything at the Sharks.
They were. They just tried and break through the line and score and beat the Sharks, but that didn't happen.
But
wasn't quite enough. At the
end of it, no, it didn't, because I think the Sharks were very lucky to hang on over the top of the Brisbane side coming at them, but their kick defusal rate wasn't very good.
No, it wasn't at all. It was poor.
Of the 5 bombs that were tossed up at them, they only defused about 44% of them, and throwing the 3 grubbers as well. Not good.
No.
But they were probably lucky when it comes to penalties. Their discipline was much better. Oh no, I can't. Usually it gets confusing half the time when it comes to reading penalties conceded. Did the Sharks give away 2 penalties, or was it they conceded 6 penalties? Just which way does it swing again?
I'd say the Sharks conceded 6 and the Broncos conceded 2. I think that's how I read it.
Well, I think what undid the Broncos all up was the ill discipline. We have 4 players on report, and 2 of them ended up in the sin bin, and that being Tom Flegler and the debutant Brendan Piacara. You just can't do that.
Well, good way to remember your first game, being in the sin bin.
Yeah, but not probably the best way of remembering it.
Well,
for all the
no.
reasons. But at the end of the day, the Sharks stood up when it mattered most, or did enough to hang on, and Braden Trindle played a good role in that. The try he scored, or that put the Sharks in front at the 45th minute mark, followed up by the 98 running meters, a goal line dropout, and 4 from 5 goals converted. Had he missed any less, then the Broncos were still a competitive chance.
Yeah. How did Xavier Coates get his try though? Like, seriously, come on.
The kid's a freak, and he'll be playing outside Remus Smith next year. It's that Melbourne right edge. A lot of good things, I think, will be of that Storm right edge.
Oh yeah, and Broncos will miss him big time.
They definitely will. Now, the upset of the year. The most genuine upset of the year. The Melbourne Storm. History beckons. 20 straight games to go past Eastern Suburbs' record of 1975 with 19 wins, only to be upstaged by the Parramatta Eels. 22 points to 10.
How the hell did Parramatta win? I am still asking that question days later.
This was effectively a repeat of round 2, but Parramatta found an extra gear, just winning the collision. I think that was the message of the takeaway that Brad Arthur wanted, and they won the collision. They looked at Jerome Hughes and they looked at Cameron Munster, and it's very rare that you see Cameron Munster have defensive lapses down the Storm's left-hand side, but that's what they did. The moment they saw Munster shoot up out of the line, Blake Ferguson's eyes just lit up like Christmas trees. Maybe not his nose, because the star was a little bit crooked. Again, jokes. Don't take this seriously. Not that anyone has seen this. But that's my point. The moment they see the half shoot up, Parramatta's job just became easy. And I think they did very well defensively. That's second half from the Eagles. This is what we have been seeing from them all year, just not since they've moved to Queensland.
Yeah. But where has that been for Parramatta all season? It's still don't know how they're going to go in the finals, but this has been a very big boost heading to that, beating the reigning premiers and
fun fact,
19 match
only
winnings.
One of 2 teams to have actually beaten the Melbourne Storm this year. Only one of 2.
I think
the
the
only
Eels
other
beat
one was
them.
the Panthers.
The Eels beat them once or twice this year.
Twice.
And the other team beat them twice. So yeah.
Nope.
Unbelievable.
Parramatta are the only team who were playing the Storm twice. They're the only side that have done it twice. So they still got some class about them, despite their poor form as of late.
Yeah, so I still don't know what the hell happened. It was just a brilliant performance by Parramatta. And that opens up the minor premiership race even further, heading into the final round.
The minor premiership race very delicately. And we'll touch more on it when we get to it, but I think the Storm have a lot of problems themselves as well. I mean, of course, they're going to be resting players, and they got problems at the judiciary as well. So they need to be very careful how they line up next week and how they bounce back from this shock loss.
Yeah. But we never know what's going to happen until it happens. With that, we still don't know what's going to happen. So
no, we don't.
It'll come down to the final whistle.
The Redcliffe doubleheader rounds out round 24 with the Manly Seagulls downing the Canterbury Bulldogs 36 points to 18, but they definitely played for their money today on this day.
Oh, yeah, they did. I thought the Bulldogs were going to have an upset win, to have 2 upsets within 2 days. That's how I thought the game was going to happen when the Dogs took the lead.
I think it was absolutely crazy that Matt Dury got over, but then it was unfortunate that he ended up doing his ACL not long after he scored the try.
That is very
I mean, think of it this way. They've been in the press over the last week for all the wrong reasons. Adam Elliott's most likely going to get the sack if they see it fit. Lachlan Lewis has had his contract, has now been told he's moved on. He's leaving the club.
Yep.
Don't know who he's going to... And he's still got an investigation over his head as well, so that's not good either.
No.
And of course, we're the worst performing team in 93 years in Australia, and we are already locked up with a wooden spoon, and so it just makes the situation even worse, with Trent Barrett told he's probably only got the first 2 months of next year, or they're going to toss him out to the curb. But this
Look,
performance, this was absolutely that first half display. That game could have gone either way until, and I think this was the real turning point. Tom Trbojevic.
and a controversial try.
That try, no try,
Try, no, try,
where he
try.
lost the ball all before grounding it. How the bunker could see fit that he did score it, that's beyond me.
Well, it's the bunker, so they obviously favour Manly more than the Dogs, and favour Tom Trbojevic because he's the current poster boy in the NRL at the moment. So
All I can say about it is they should have gone to spectators, because after that, another Tom Trbojevic hat trick follows, and Jason Saab bags a second try after being denied in the first half. Good, due to a good defensive read from Canterbury.
yeah, I have to say, Jack Hetherington did a bloody ripper of a job to
To try and stop Tom Trbojevic.
to try and stop Trbojevic scoring that try, no try situation.
That's a Payne Haas level of dedication right there. To go up, to chase after the bastard man, then try and wrestle him to try and prevent the try from being scored. He should have been rewarded for that effort with a 20-metre restart instead of conceding another 4 points.
If the bunker ruled a no try, all the headlines would have gone to Jack Hetherington and saying how well he did to stop the try. But no, because the bunker ruled a try, all the headlines went to Tom Trbojevic scoring it.
And what about Jackson Torpenny's try?
The easiest try he's ever got to score in his career.
What happened to the Manly defence there?
No communication. Absolutely no communication.
Mental. Absolutely mental the way Torpenny scored.
From the kickoff, couple bounces, straight through and score.
You
that was
catch that. You got to catch those kickoffs. You can't afford them to bounce lest that happens. Can't be a rule, I reckon.
And I
don't
reckon,
let it go dead. Don't kick it out on the full. And don't let the ball bounce.
Yes. Look, the Torpenny try, I thought was the second major turning point in the game. And if the Bulldogs got back down the other end and scored again, they could have well been truly in front, I think, because at the time I think they're only 12 or 6 points down. But they're very, very well. Yeah,
I think there's
they were very close.
The Bulldogs can bag at least one more win before the season is up. From what I've seen here, I think there's still a chance.
Well, you've only got one more game, so it's your last chance.
And the final game of round 24, the Penrith Panthers downing the West Tigers 30 points to 16. And I suppose Ivan Cleary's square up for the earlier fixture at Leichhardt Oval in round 13.
Yes, more than likely. But you have to say the Tigers were in the game as well. They leveled up at 6-all, then were down 12-6.
How crazy was it that the first two tries for both sides came from front rowers?
How often
How
do
many
you
times
see
do you
that?
see that in a game?
1 in a million chances of that happening.
It's like winger passing to winger.
Well, yeah, that too. Whoever had the bet on having the two front rowers scoring first, they would have made a bloody shitload of money.
It was just absolutely crazy. And then you get Tavita Pangai Jr. coming off the bench and barreling his way through, 4 defenders? Just to slam that ball down to take the lead at halftime?
Yeah. So, realistically, 3 of 4 second rowers scored the first 3 tries of the match, which also, how I read it, that happened as well.
That is crazy. And of course, the Panthers, they kicked into gear in the second half. And I think this was this wasn't Brian To'o's first game back, was it?
No, I think he was back last week, I believe. Just let me double check. Yeah, he was back last week.
Well, it was absolutely he's just got a knack for the eye line.
He does, even though he's been out of the game for a month and a half, he's come back and continued his try scoring best.
And once again, Nathan Cleary, the Penrith co-captain, this bloke is just unbelievable. either ball at this point. 140 running meters, 3 try assists, a goal line dropout, and all 5 tries were converted.
Yeah.
A perfect display from him.
Like it has been pretty much all year, every time he's played for Penrith this year.
Especially with that setup for the Leota try in the first half. Just
Oh,
kicks it along the ground. Moses Leota. The lights might have lit up like Christmas trees when the ball bounced in front of him.
and he tried doing it again too later on for, I can't remember who it was for, but it wasn't quite. Was it Coruscant that tried doing it for?
I think it might have been Coruscant.
But that was unsuccessful in that attempt. But still, like, come on. You just don't do that in a regular season. That's a training drill, not a playing on the field during a match. Like, seriously, that's how much class Penrith have had this year.
It definitely is, and I think it'd be very interesting to see if they can back it up and get to the grand final again.
Well, even so, the minor premiership as well, because that's still wide open.
It definitely is. Now, final round, round 25, the Telstra Premiership. With everything on the line, and we start off for one of these sides who does have everything on the line. The Canberra Raiders playing the Sydney Roosters up in Mackay, and unfortunately the Roosters have suffered more losses. I think one due to suspension. Joey Manu, Ben Thomas, I should say, and Fletcher Baker are all out. And of course, Manu with the eye socket that has ruled him out for the rest of the year. But the good news is, Angus Crichton, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, and Josh Morris, alongside Matt Ikuvalu, are all back in the lineup alongside Adam Kieran. So the back line looks a little bit more respectful. Ikuvalu back out on the right wing. Morris and Kieran in the centres, with Angus Crichton taking his place back in the second row from Egan Butcher, I think it was. Also Fletcher Baker and Jared Waerea-Hargreaves back up in the front row. Lachlan Lamb, and to start with Sam Walker off the bench.
For the Raiders, Joe Tarpany has been named, even though he suffered a injury in the game last week. In the pack, the only change is Sia Soliola. He's coming in at lock, and Ryan Sutton's going to the bench. Sean Stickle-Cookstad is making his first run out start since coming back from injury, so that puts Jordan Rapana on the win, and Bailey Simonson out altogether as he's got a groin strain. Matt Frawley partners Jack Whiten in the halves yet again. I think that's pretty much unchanged.
This is a big game. I think for both the Roosters and the Raiders, this is a big game, but for different reasons. For the Raiders, if they win, and if results go their way, they will finish 8th on the ladder. If the Roosters win, they'll hang on.
Yes.
I mean, they're already locked into the top 4 as it stands. But they can get themselves a 5th place finish if they win, and if results go their way.
Well, with their more respectable back line, or the first respectable 1 to 7, I should say, it's looking better for the Roosters than what it was. And it's also Josh Morris's last regular first season game.
Yes, after announcing his retirement, and just yesterday, I believe.
Yes.
It was after
Monday.
A successful 15-year career with St George Illawarra, the Canterbury Bulldogs, Cronulla, and the Sydney Roosters. He will call curtains alongside Brett Morris. Wonderful player.
He definitely was, like his brother. But I did say, I think, a few episodes, a while back now, when Brett Morris went down with his ACL, I thought, when that happened, I thought Josh is going to retire at the end of the season. And look what's happened. He's retiring at the end of the season. Hopefully he goes out on high with a win in his last regular season club match, and he goes deep into the finals.
Well, it would be remarkable if he bows out with a premiership win, but the chances are, well, that's put the Roosters to the side, I believe.
Yes.
Final prediction. The way I see it, JWH coming back in at the right time. This is what the Roosters need. They need their big dog forward leader there for this game. because the Raiders, they know what's on the line here. A win for them, they'll finish 8th. A loss, they could be as low as 10th.
Yes.
If I was to do it, I'd be looking at the Raiders' left side defensively, where Jack Whiten defends, because they've had a lot of luck as more of the better sides than them, Penrith and Melbourne, they have had luck going at the Raiders' left side defensively. So this will be a job for Adam Kieran and Matt Ikubalu, as well as Lachlan and Lamb and Satili Tupanua. They've got to go hard at Jack White to keep the Raiders out of it. As for the big dog, it's just a classic duel. Who dominates? Will it be him, or is it going to be Papali'i? That's all I'm going to say on that. And without Tom Starling, I think the Raiders lose that speed from dummy half as well. Also, I've got to give the edge to the Roosters to run out 1-12 winners here.
Yeah, look, Jared Hargraves against Josh Papali'i will be a massive battle to watch. And like you said, without Tom Starling, they're going to lose that speed in the middle of the game. I'm going to have to go to the Roosters by 8 points.
Unfortunately, I think Canberra's run will come to an end against their bitter grand final opponents.
Yes.
Now going for a Gold Coast doubleheader, another game with serious implications both for the 8 and the minor premiership, as the Cronulla Sharks play host to the Melbourne Storm, and the Storm have made some mass rests going on. Cam Munster, Christian Welch, Felice Kafusi, Jesse and Kenny Bronch, the Fox, Josh Adokar, Remus Smith, and Tom Eisenhuth. So they have literally rested a whole host of players and brought in a whole lot more as well. Marion Seve and Dean Iramia come into the back line alongside George Jennings to join Justin Olam and Ryan Pappenhausen. Nico Hines moves to 5'8" with no Cam Munster. In the forwards, Dale Finucane is back at lock of forward with Aaron Penne and Chris Lewis, the new second rowers. The Cheese is joined by Big Nelson, Asoka Solomon, and with Kamakamepa moving into the front row. And off the bench, Tapai Maroa, Jordan Grant, and Riley Jacks, alongside Harry Grant.
For the Sharkies, with Matt Moore's return to the starting side, it pushes Luke Metcalf to the bench. And Billy Magulia's Tamoa, I'm going to get it wrong again.
Moapo?
Yes, he's on the bench, and Lua, I believe. Lua, almost had it, is also on the reserves. In other words, unchanged.
This is one of those big games here, because the Sharks, if they win, Penrith get the minor premiership. If they lose, and results go against them, they'll finish 9th.
You say if the Sharks win, Penrith get the minor premiership, but if Penrith lose and South win, then South still could get the minor premiership yet.
I don't think it's possible. I think it would be heavily influenced on for and against, and the Rabbitohs would need to win by 60 or more, because the Melbourne Storm would have an almost as for and against of 500, but they need to chase down.
Almost.
It's
And
not going to happen.
Well, the Rabbitohs opponents, it could definitely happen. We'll get to that shortly.
This could genuinely be a real danger game for both sides.
Oh yeah.
A minor premiership and a top 8 berth are both running on for this side, and I think Craig Bellamy has taken the position, whether we win or lose this game, we are going to be fresher for the finals than most other sides. And I think this is a strategy that could reap rewards from Melbourne at the back end of it.
Look, when I saw all the match changes for the Storm, I thought, that's risky considering they're in the race for the minor premiership still. But, like you just mentioned, they'll be a lot fresher for the finals than what other clubs will be.
And they still got the Cheese and Harry Grant working out of dummy half. So they still got that advantage over the Sharks. And they got a lot more utility players to work with. And of course, they still got Jerome Hughes, so there's still a lot of players with the Melbourne Storm that can do a job, even though some of the biggest names for them are out. I got to give the Storm 1-12 here. I think they'll handle the Sharks through the middle, and I think Nico Hines, because this is the irony, Hines will be at the Sharks next year, so he'll put in a good performance at 5. If he puts in a good performance at 5'8" for them, this will just reinforce how the Sharks might see themselves in 12 months' time.
Yes. Look, I agree. I'm going to go with Melbourne by 10. It's going to be I reckon it's going to be a crack of a game. The Sharks have been playing reasonable as of late. But Melbourne will be the better team come game day.
Now, for the second part of the Gold Coast doubleheader, another game of serious implications for the top 4. The Parramatta Eels hosting the Penrith Panthers. Now, of course, Penrith have made no changes. As apart from adding to their reserves, they are 1-17 of the side that beat the Tigers last week.
For Parramatta, they have been mass changes. A new fullback in Hayes Perham, if I've got that correctly. Perham. With Blake Ferguson and the other Hayes Dunster on the wings. Tom Opacek and Michael Oldfield are in the centres. At lock forward, you've got Ray Stone. In second rows, you've got Bryce Cartwright and Keegan Hipgrave. With Oregon Confuci and Makatoa up front, with Joey Lustig at hooker. Sorry, I've missed Will Smith and Jake Arthur in half combination. I missed that one.
Will Smith given the captaincy for the Eels.
Yes. Samuel Loizu, Kai Rodell, Sean Lane and Sean Russell are on interchange with Will Penasini, Isaiah Papali, Nathan Brown and Dylan Brown amongst the reserves. So no Gutherson, no Paulo, no Nikore, no Moses and no Blake in the starting side.
Well, I think Parramatta, knowing that they've got a top 6 berth wrapped up, they're going to be looking ahead as well. And this is going to be a big test for Jake Arthur because this is going to be a full-strength Penrith side they're going up against.
Well, yes, it would be. Well, Penrith are, I think, like the only team in the top 6 that aren't resting players.
I think
it's a bit of a risk.
Parramatta were able to beat Melbourne by just winning the collision and strong defence. That was what they did very well against the Melbourne Storm. Will it work against the Panthers? That's the question.
I don't think so.
I think the way Penrith, especially down their left edge where you've got weapons like Burton, Luai, Cleary, Kickow, you've got the 4 of them firing down that left-hand side. And Parramatta, we know, right side is not very good defensively, so they've got to be up to try and stop them. But at the same time, Penrith are running a huge risk here. If anyone goes down injured long term, because you imagine if they lose Nathan Cleary in this game, the implications that could have for them in the finals?
It'll be a massive, absolutely massive implications.
So I think, depending on how this result goes, we'll see regardless of who wins, we'll see who's actually got the right strategy heading into the finals. If these two sides happen to meet in the grand final somehow, if it's possible, who's the one who's more likely to come out on top? A tied Penrith side or a fresh Eels side?
Well, you think a fresh Eels side, but that's it that make the...
That's if they get there. If it's possible for them to meet in the grand final.
Yeah.
Which I highly doubt it is.
Well, look, Penrith will...
Well, it could be possible, but they'd have to... The way I predicted it, they'd need to beat Newcastle week 1, beat South in the semi-finals, and then beat Melbourne in the prelim finals, and Penrith to beat Manly, the way I predicted it, to make it to the grand final. So it is possible.
Yes. Wouldn't that be nice?
I think just for the sake of looking at the strength of the sides, and I think Nathan Cleary racing to try and beat Tom Trbojevic to the Dally M and Medal Player of the Year, I'm going to give over the Panthers 1 to 12 here. I think Parramatta will still have some defensive resistance about them, but they're not going to run over the top of them.
Look, Penrith will have massive pressure on them if Melbourne go down to the Sharks in the game prior. So either game on Friday night, we're going to decide the minor premiership. Penrith will be having that on the back of their mind, so I'm going to say Penrith to win by 16.
All right. Now, Brisbane Broncos in the final game of the season for them, and a lot of the players for them, host the 7th placed Newcastle Knights, and the Knights have decided to rest players as well. Heimel Hunt, Jacob Saifiti, Jaden Brayley, and Mitch Barnett are all out. So David Clemmer will be welcomed back into the side after serving a 1-game suspension. Sawaso Sue and Chris Randall form up the rest of the front row with Brodie Jones once again in the second row, and Anari Stafford Toa comes into the side with no Heimel Hunt.
The Broncos, they are pretty much unchanged, although you've got Tom Flegler and Brendan Piakura out due to suspension. Jordan Ricky looks like he's going to play this week after being a late withdrawal. So TC Rabati reverts to the bench. I think that is pretty much unchanged. Milford and Keller in the halves again this week. I think that's pretty much what it changes.
Well, this will be the last game for Anthony Milford. And of course, Alex Len will retire. So there are a lot of reasons for the Broncos to try and perform well one last time for the year before Paul Kelly brings in the mass changes.
Yes.
The Knights have also decided strategically to rest players as well. And having David Clemmer back is a very good substitution for no Daniel or Jacob Saifiti at this point.
Yeah, well, the Knights don't really need to stress about their finals position because it's all locked in. They're not going to get leapfrogged. They're not going to get move up any further. So I can see why the Knights have decided to rest.
I mean, I would have thought they would have rested Kalen Ponga, but apparently they didn't think that way, and they have decided. Of course, they're bringing in players. I mean, Phoenix Crosland getting another chance, Jack Johns once again, and getting another opportunity to play this season. And I think all up, the forward battle between Payne Haas and David Clemmer would be worth admission alone.
It'll be a fiery one.
But I think the way Newcastle have been playing, both with their defence and the gelling of Jake Clifford and Mitchell Pearce, I think the Knights once again get over the top of the Broncos, and I think they get away 1-12 here as well.
Well, we saw how well these two played like 4 weeks ago. But I'm going to come and say Newcastle to win by 6 points.
The second game on Saturday, the North Queensland Cowboys at home to the Manly Sea Eagles, and Manly have chosen to rest no one, but have reinforced their forward pack with the return of Sean Kepi and Taniela Paseka, with Curtis Sirenen and Toa Ofoa Sipley dropping back to the reserves in an otherwise unchanged lineup.
Cohen Hesse is on track to play, replacing Ruben Cotter, as he is out with a shoulder injury. Lachlan Burr is listed amongst the reserves, but he's unlikely to be a late inclusion. Todd Payton and his crew will be reviewing Talamao's hand injury suffered this year, with a possible technique change in carrying the ball is on the cards. Whether or not that will have an impact on his game or not is a different story, and I think that's pretty much unchanged also.
I think Todd Payton will be very glad when the year is over, because he has not had a very good... Well, he's had an up and down year as Cowboys coach. If we put it that way, it has been up and down. There was that one period where the Cowboys looked like they were going to finish inside the top 8, and then it just fell apart. And
Yes,
they've
indeed.
just never been able to recover.
No. And Manly just in too good a form at the moment.
Oh, man, they are.
Like, you can't stop them.
No, you can't. I think this was last week. What it was with the Cowboys, it was one last chance to get a win before the year it rounded out, and they have achieved that. But the way
Yes.
Tom Trbojevic is playing and the form of Manly overall, it's just too irresistible. I have to
Yeah.
give Manly the 13+ win here.
Yeah, I'm going to say Manly to win by 34 points.
The final game of the Saturday triple header, the South Sydney Rabbitohs play host to the St George Illawarra Dragons, and of course with no Zach Lomax, who has been ruled out once again with that thumb injury. Jared Beale is named to start in the enters for Anthony Griffin in the only change he makes.
For South, there have been a few changes without Latrell Mitchell. Blake Taff is at fullback with Paulo and Tane Milne on the wings with no Alex Johnston. Braden Burns and Campbell Graham are the centres with also no Dan Gagai. Benji Marshall and Lachlan Ilias making his debut, I believe, in the halves combination as Walker and Reynolds are out rested. Mark Nichols is at lock forward with Jaden Sew and Jacob Host also in the second row. Up front, you've got Tabeta Totola, Peter Mamouzelos, and Patrick Margot also up front with Dean Hawkins, Tautau Melga, Jed Cartwright, and Davey Mawali on the interchange bench.
It's very, very interesting at this point with what South Sydney have done, because they're thinking the same thing, knowing that they're more than likely going to have to face the Panthers in the first week of the finals. So get Reynolds, get Johnston, get Cook and Walker all rested up. Of course, there's not going to be Latrell Mitchell for the rest of the finals campaign because of what he did to Joey Manu. So it'll be interesting to see how far South can go without him.
I'll still be right without him.
And it's the same story with the Dragons as well. How far can they push this South Sydney side, who have rested all their stars, knowing that they've had a terrible last couple of months. It's not been good for them. How do they go out? Do they go out on a high, or do they get beaten by the Rabbitohs one more time?
I'm going to see it as the Dragons going to lose to the Rabbitohs just to put more salt into our miserable season. Like I said earlier on, the last chance for the Dragons to win was against the Cowboys, and that didn't happen. But even though Rabbits have all rested their players, they're still going to win. The Dragons are going to they'll be in the contest, but like nowhere near it.
The forward battle will be interesting because you've got two dummy halves. One is a converted dummy half in Sullivan. The other, Damien Cook's understudy in Mamouzelos. But I think the tipping point is Benji Marshall starting at 5'8". I think you lose Walker and Reynolds, but you bring Marshall in. That is a luxury Wayne has had all year. You bring the experience and the guidance that Benji brings, and he could pull the strings perfectly for the Bunnies with the rookies surrounding him in the back line. I got to give South the 1-12 benefit here.
Yeah, I'm going to say South to win by 38 points.
Wow, bit audacious, especially with no Alex Johnston.
No, they'll still do well. Marshall's had plenty of experience come this summer year before, so he'll know. He'll absolutely take control.
Finally, last game with significance in this round is the Gold Coast Titans up against the New Zealand Warriors for the final home game. The Warriors making two changes with no Bunty Afoa and no Chad Townsend, with Sean O'Sullivan named back at halfback, and Matt Lodge returning after beating the judiciary for his indiscretion last week in the only changes for the New Zealand side.
The changes for the Gold Coast side is Kevin Proctor has been named, but he has been battling a shoulder issue, so he will need to pass a fitness test. Dave Fafita is again named on the bench, but that could change come game day, given the Titans could be chasing a finals berth. And then another change is Fodawaker has been promoted from the bench to start up prop with Tina Fasuamali sliding back to Locker and Sam McIntyre to the bench.
This is a big game for the Titans because if the Sharks win on Friday, it's over for them. Unless they beat the Warriors by a great margin, they will finish outside the top 8. So this is a game the Titans have to win to get there. The Warriors can't make it. So it's all or nothing on this play. And I think this is what Justin Holbrook has resorted to by naming the full strength inside here. Of course, the Warriors are going to be here to deny the Gold Coast their first finals appearance in 5 years. Isn't their first under Justin Holbrook, with a lot of promise on him. What to do about this? Which way do I go?
Well, I'm going to go to Warriors by 12. They're going to spoil the party for the Gold Coast Titans. It would be good if the Titans did make the finals in front of their home fans. Like you said, for the first time in 5 years, but the Warriors will be out to spoil the party, so I'm going to say Warriors by 12.
I think there's too much riding on this, and I don't know how the Warriors back up after letting a 16-6 lead go at halftime to be run down 28 points to 60. And I think the Titans will be up for this game. I think they know a win for them, regardless of how the Sharks play, a win for them, and they'll be in the top 8. Well, I think if the Sharks win, it's over. If they win, they'll get there. I'm going to say the Titans win 13+.
Fair enough.
And finally, the last game of the regular season, West Tigers against the Canterbury Bulldogs. Only one change to Canterbury, with Matt Dury being ruled out. Joe Stimson is named to start alongside Corey Waddell in the second row.
Kelma Tuilagi is no certainty to play with a shoulder, so James Roberts is among those in reserves. Ambai will undergo concussion protocols this week, even though he has been named a fullback. And I think that Alex Seyfarth is out due to injury. James Roberts, Reece Hoffman, Zaxeni Tuki Simpkins is on the reserves as well. And Jock Madden's also in the halves again, alongside Luke Brooks, with Michael Cheekham in the centre.
This is a game I think most people think it's going to go one way.
No, I don't think
you're
that.
You're probably right. But the way I see it, what I saw from the Bulldogs, I think there is enough in there to suggest that they can end a wretched year. The worst year in 93 years is for any side. I think they can come out and put in one final good performance to take into the preseason when the summer of Gus begins, and start 2022 even better than they ended 2021.
Look, it couldn't go either way this game, but like you said, the performance that the Dogs put on last week against a top side like Manly, they've got it. They can potentially win this match.
And the Tigers have had problems as well with sides they should have beaten, but ended up losing to. So there's a lot of questions about the West Tigers, especially still down their right-hand channel. And I think Jaden Ockenbaugh and Ken Mamalo will make a very good wingers duel to see who can out-jump the other. But I got to go, just for the fun of it, even if I don't get it, I'm going to say the Bulldogs win 1-12 for the final game of the year.
Yeah, that's what I'm going as well, just for the fun of it. If we both get it right, we'll be cheering. If we get it wrong, well, it's the last game of the round. It doesn't...
We're last either way, so you might as well accept defeat with one final win for the year. I think that's the way it should be going.
I'm going to say Bulldogs by 10 points. There you go, just for the fun of it. It's the last game of the regular season. Have some fun, eh?
And on that note, that is your NRL round 24-25 debrief. But don't go anywhere. We got your Betfred Super League debrief coming up. All the action from round 21 and 22, and the Magic Weekend at St James Park in Newcastle is only a couple of days away. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.